друзьям, сейчас мы устанавливаем связь с тем самым ведущим профессиональный бизнес-тренер, признанный во всем мире специалист в области продаж Брайан Трейси. Давайте сейчас, чтобы в Соединенных Штатах его чтобы он услышал наши аплодисменты. Прошу, поаплодируйте.
Can you hear me?
Поаплодируйте, друзья. Спросил человек, слышит меня?
Now, would you like me to begin speaking? Can you hear me clearly?
Помните, ко всему относиться с улыбкой.
Okay, so I need to know Can you hear me clearly? You can hear me clearly. All right. So would you like me to continue? Well, then let me begin. My name is Braian Tracey. Now, can you just raise your hand if you can hear me clearly? All right, so that I can continue speaking. Thank you very much. Большое спасибо. Я рад здесь, Владивосток. I want to share with you some of the best ideas that I know about business. Many years ago, I started off speaking and traveling, and I began asking the question, why is it that some people are more successful than others? And as I traveled, I found that successful people have certain qualities that make them different from other people. And then I began asking, why is it that some companies or businesses are more successful than others? Over the last 40 years, I have spoken to more than 1,000 of the largest companies in the world, including companies like Sberbank. I have spoken in St. Petersburg, Moscow, Kazan, Ekaterinburg, Irkutsk, Khabarovsk, Rostov, and many other cities. I have spoken to more than 1,000 large companies and more than 10,000 small and medium-sized companies. I have also spent perhaps 150,000 hours studying the question, why is it that some businesses are more successful than others? What we know is that 20% of the businesses earn 80% of the profits in every industry. In fact, worldwide, 20% of individuals like yourself, earn 80% of the money. So your job, your goal must be to be among the highest paid people in your industry. One of the ideas that came as a surprise to me was that everybody who's at the top started at the bottom. Everyone who is in the top 20% started in the bottom 20%. And then they did certain things in a certain way that enabled them to be very successful, and you can do the same things. I have worked with, as I say, thousands of companies that have become extremely profitable by simply changing a few of the things that they do. Now, here's a very simple idea, and I will give you some ideas to double your sales and profitability in the time we spend together. back in 1986 and 1987, IBM was the most successful company in the world. It won every prize, every award, highest profitability, fastest growth. And then in 1991, IBM fell out of the sky, as they say, and dropped 80% in share value. The board of directors came in and fired all the senior executives. They brought in an outside company of management consultants, and they spread out worldwide to find what was wrong with IBM. They were even talking about breaking up the company into small pieces. Well, after about 6 months of research, they came back to the board of directors and they say, we have found your solution. We have found your problem. And they said, what is the problem? And they said, low sales. Your problem is low sales. And of course, the board of directors said, well, we know that. We know that it's low sales. Well, what is the solution? They said, well, the solution is high sales. You've got to get the sales up. And they said, all right, we know that we have low sales and that the solution is high sales, but how do we achieve it? Now, this is a major turning point in business. They asked them, they said, well, we have a solution for you. It's one of the best management consulting companies in the world. We found that under the old management, salespeople were forced to spend maybe 3/4 of their time filling out sales forms. And sales managers were required to spend most of their time reviewing the sales reports. So we're going to change the numbers, and we're going to recommend that salespeople from this day forward spend 75% of their time talking to customers. And sales managers spend 75% of their time working with salespeople talking to customers. And so they installed this as a new rule, a new process, a new law. And that year, IBM lost $1.1 billion. The following year, IBM earned a profit of $1.6 billion. It was the fastest turnaround in corporate history. So many companies now have adopted this 75% rule. That's their senior executives, salespeople, sales managers must spend 75% of their time talking to customers. Now, when are you actually working? Well, sometimes I ask this question. I say, why do you get up in the morning and go to work? And people say, to earn money. And that's a good answer. So you get up in the morning and you go to work to earn money. And actually you want to earn more money. You don't want to earn less money, and you don't want to earn the same amount. You want to earn more money. So we all agree with that. So how do you earn more money at work? Well, the answer is you sell more of your product. There's no other way. So here's what we found. We asked sales managers, salespeople, business owners. We asked them, how much of your time do you spend selling your product or service? How much of your time do you spend? And they all answered the same thing, worldwide. Oh, we spend all our time selling. Selling is the most important thing in our business. We spend all our time selling. And they said, well, that's very interesting. Could we follow you around for a month with a stopwatch and just check to see how you use your time? And they all agreed, no problem. Selling is the most important thing. And at the end of a month, and they studied hundreds of companies, they found that the average business owner, sales manager, salesperson spends about 11% of their time actually selling the product or service. All the rest of the time they spend talking, and they spend playing on their internet, and they spend on their telephone, and they spend talking to their friends in the office. But they only spend about 11% of their time. Going back to 1928, they found that full-time salespeople people whose job it is to sell all day long only sell about 90 minutes a day. The rest of the time they spend planning, organizing, talking, checking with their email, talking to their friends, going for lunch. So IBM immediately put in the 75% rule. I've now spoken with hundreds of companies, large and small, who simply put in the 75% rule. From now on, everybody spends 75% of their time selling the product or service, and only 25% of their time doing all the other work. If you do that, here's my promise to you, your sales and your profits will double within 30 days. I've taught this in 80 countries, and I've never had a single company or in any country come back and say it didn't work. They all doubled their sales within 30 days. So that's the starting point. So we look at companies, and I did not graduate from high school. When I was 23 years old, I was working on a farm during the harvest. And when I could no longer find a laboring job, I got into sales. And in sales, I struggled for many months until I learned what we call the law of cause and effect. And this law says that for every effect or result, there's a reason. And so I began to ask, why are some salespeople more successful than others? And what I found was that salespeople follow a formula. They've now spent millions and millions of dollars studying the formula to find that the top 10 or 20% of salespeople, the ones who earn all the money, these people follow a simple sales formula that seems to work over and over again. This year and last year, they study the 500 fastest growing companies in America. The fastest growing of these companies this year grew 168,000%. That's 16,800 times is how fast they grew. Last year, the fastest growing companies grew 176,000 times. The year before that, the fastest company grew 148,000 times. So the question is, how could these companies grow so much? The average company in this 500 fastest growing companies grew 17 times. So I want to ask you a simple question. What difference would it make in your life if your company grew 17 times next year? Well, there's hundreds of companies that are growing 17 times, 70 times, 100 times, 200 times, 500 times, 1,000 times in 3 years. And the owners of these companies are not smarter than you, and they're not better educated than you. They're just doing things differently. Warren Buffett started off with $2,000 in 1962. And as you may know, Warren Buffett is one of the richest men in the world. A few years ago, he was number one in the world, the richest man in the world. And after that, Bill Gates became number one. And now Jeff Bezos of Amazon is number 4. And so Warren Buffett is still number 5 or number 6. His combined business is worth about $350 billion. Last year, his income was $25 billion. Now, even if you're talking about rubles, $25 billion is good profit for 1 year, wouldn't you say? Would you agree with that? $25 billion is good profit. Yes, конечно. It's a lot of money. And he started off with nothing. So he was asked recently, 2 things actually. He was at a party with Bill Gates and Bill Gates' father, and they're having a dinner party at Bill Gates' home with more than 100 people. And one of the dinner guests came up to him and asked, "You 3 gentlemen are 3 of the most successful people in the world. What would you say is the most important quality for success today?" And all three stopped their conversation, and they all turned, and they all gave the same answer. Focus. Focus is the most important single quality for success in business today. Lack of focus is the number one reason for failure. And so one of the things that we have to remind ourselves, you and me, is that we have to focus all the time. You have to be very, very clear about what you're trying to accomplish and focus on just one thing all the time. Now, my favorite word for success in business is clarity. But you have to have clarity before you have focus. And then my third favorite word is concentration. So what you have to do is you have to have absolutely clear goals, and then you have to pick your most important goals and focus on that one goal, and then you have to concentrate on that one goal 100% of the time until it's complete. Now, let me give you a couple of ways to double your income in business, and then I'm going to come back and give you some of the most important business principles. The first way is for you to imagine that you have two types of activities that you engage in each day. And let us call these activities number one and activities number two. Activities number one are those activities that move you toward your most important goal. And activities number two are activities that do not move you toward your most important goal. And even worse, they move you away from your most important goal. These are time-wasting activities. So here's one of the ways to double your income, and that is to do only activities number one. To do only those activities that are moving you toward your most important goals all day long. This requires incredible self-discipline, but is one of the qualities of the highest earning people in every field. And then refuse to do activities in group number two. So here's one of the questions that can change your life if you ask it over and over again. Before you do anything, just ask yourself this question: does this activity that I am about to do move me toward one of my most important goals of sales and profitability, or is it just a waste of time? Is it just a distraction? Because most people today are wasting their time in business. So that's a simple way to double your income. Here's another way to double your income. And it's very simple. And it's based on what I call the law of three. And I've taught this to many business people. The law of three says that if you make a list of everything you do in the course of a week or a month, you'll find that you do about 20 or 30 different things. Some people think that they do 30 or 40 or 50 different things, but the average is between 20 and 30 different tasks. So then what I will do is I will have my students, like yourself, I'll say, all right, here's the rule. Only 3 of your tasks account for 90% of the value of everything you do. And everything else you do is in the bottom 10%. So what you need to do is you need to identify your 3 most important tasks. And the way you do that is you ask this question: if I could only do one thing all day long, which one activity would contribute the most value to your business and to your life and to your income? If you could only do one activity all day long, which one activity would contribute the most value? And then put a circle of that around that on your list. Then you ask the second question: if you could only do 2 things all day long, which would be the second most valuable activity you could engage in? And then put a circle around that. And then you ask yourself, if you could only do 3 activities all day long, what would be the third most valuable activity? Now, I've given this activity all over the world to every person in every business or profession, and everyone has 3 big activities. So this is a decision that can change your life. Is from now on, do fewer things. Warren Buffett was asked his secret to success, to becoming one of the richest men in the world, and his answer was, I just say no to everything. My secret to success is I say no, niet, to everything. And so your secret to success from now on is to say no to everything but those 2 or 3 things that you do that are more valuable than everything else. Here's another little point, is that there are no results in your office. There's no sales in your office. There's no business or profits in your office. All the results and profits are outside of your office. So from now on, decide to do only the 3 most important things you do, and do them all day long, and then continually improve and get better at each of those 3 things. So, let me ask you a question. And the question is, what is your most valuable financial asset? When I first heard this question, I did not know the answer. What is your most valuable financial asset? And then I discovered that your most valuable financial asset is your earning ability. It is your ability to work. It's your ability to earn money. It's your ability to get results that people will pay you for. You could lose your house and your car and your bank account or your business, but as long as you still had your ability to earn money, you could go back out and start working and earning more money. So your most valuable financial asset is your earning ability. And your earning ability is composed of 3 activities. So one of the great secrets to success is to do only those things that increase your earning ability. Well, they just completed a 22-year study into this subject on earning ability. And what they did is they found the 500 highest paid people in America, and these are called the presidents or chefs or CEOs of what they call the Fortune 500, the 500 largest companies in America. And this is different from the 500 fastest growing companies. Very different. And so these people they found were earning an average of 303 times the average income of the people who worked in their companies. 303 times. So they said, this is quite incredible. It must be that these people are very intelligent, very well educated, have come from a very good background, have many contacts, and so on. So they tracked their entire career history for 25 years. And what they found was that when they started off working, their first day, their first job, they were very much the same as everybody else. They had good or bad university educations. They had high or low intelligence. They had better or worse families. But when they were starting off, you couldn't tell any difference. In fact, what they found is that 1.5% of the population in every country starts work each year. And it's like a great marathon. They line up like a marathon and get ready for the gun to go off, bang, and then everybody starts to run. And over the years, a small number of these people get way ahead in the race and earn a lot of money. The great majority stay in the middle, and a lot of people fall behind. So they went back and they studied them to find out, how did these people reach the point where they earn more than 300 times the average income of the people in their companies? And some of those people started off at the same time they did in the same company, and one person is now earning 300 times as much, 303 times as much. So they found, and this I think is one of the great breakthroughs, they found that each of these highly paid people had developed a strategy, and it was the same strategy. And this is what they did. They went to their boss when they took their first job, and they said, "Boss, I want to be really successful in this company. I want to make a valuable contribution. So tell me, what one skill would help me the most to be more successful in this company? And their boss would say, well, let me think. Well, if you were very good at marketing, or maybe if you were very good at sales, or maybe if you were very good at hiring people or reading financial statements, their boss would give them a piece of advice and tell them one skill that would help them more than anything else. So they all did the same thing. They would sit down and they would say, okay, and they would write it down as a goal, and then they would make a list of everything that they could do to become excellent at that skill. They would say, what books do I have to read? And they would ask people for the best books on that subject. And then they would ask what audio programs they could listen to, preferably Brian Tracey audio programs. They'd ask what courses or seminars could they take. And then they would work at a learning plan. And then, of course, what activities could they do every day to learn this skill? And over the weeks and then over the months, they would start to climb what I call the ladder of earning ability. Now, the ladder of earning ability is like a ladder that you use for construction, and each step on the ladder is a new skill. And so each time you learn a new skill, your earning ability increases, and you can earn more money. They will pay you more money. In fact, they will happily pay you more money because you're getting more results, and they don't want you to go somewhere else. So each time you learn a new skill, you climb up this ladder of earning ability. And one skill at a time, they would continue climbing, and then over the months and years, they would develop one skill at a time until suddenly, or eventually, they were paid an enormous amount of money. So here's an exercise that can change your life. It's one of the most important exercises I've learned, and I've spoken to more than 5,000 audiences in 80 countries and to more than 5 million people. This is one of my favorite questions. Ask this question: if you could wave a magic wand and overnight you could become absolutely excellent in any one skill, which one skill would help you the most to double your income? So if you could have any one skill overnight, which one skill would help you the most to double your income? Well, whatever your answer to that question is, write it down. Just write it down. You say, if I was really good at this skill, that would help me more than any other skill to double my income. And write it down. Now, you must know the answer to this skill. If you don't know the answer to this skill, in terms of your career, it's like you've driven down a street that has a dead end. In other words, you can't go any further. There's a block. So your car is now just facing the block. Until you turn around and go back and get onto the correct road, you can't make any progress. Well, they've done some more research and they found that, going back to the 80-20 rule, why is it that some people are in the top 20%? Well, what they found is that the people in the bottom 80%, when they take their first job, they will work hard, or a certain amount, for the first year, almost like an airplane rising up to an altitude, and then they will level off at that altitude, and they will never improve in their work. And 10 years after they started their work, they're no more productive. They're not getting any better results than they were after 1 year. So they found that these people's income, the average person, increases at about 2 or 3% each year, depending upon inflation and unemployment and collapse in oil prices and a whole bunch of other things. And so they look at the top 20%. Well, what is the strategy of the top 20%? The top 20% keep climbing the ladder of earning ability. The top 20% keep learning new skills. Now, they found that people in the top 20% increased their income at an average rate of about 10% per year. If you increase your income at 10% per year, because you're continually learning new skills, you will double your income every 7 years. So at the age of 20, you start your first job, and by the age of 27, you're earning twice as much as the people around you. If you keep learning, reading, upgrading your skills, by the age of 34, you've doubled your income again, which is 4 times. So now you're earning 4 times the average person around you. If you keep improving your skills 10% a year, by the age of 41, you will be earning 8 times as much as the average person. And by the age of 49 or 50, you'll be earning 16 times. Now, surprisingly enough, people in the top 20% earn an average of 16 times the average income of people in the bottom 80%. So if you just continually upgrading your skills, climbing the ladder of income, earning ability, every single day, week, month, and so on, eventually you'll be in the top 20% and sometimes faster, and you'll be earning 16 times the average person. You'll be in the top 20%. Now, does this work? Yes, I've worked with some large companies who've put the names and incomes of thousands of people into their computers to find out that this works. So what does it take for you to get into the top 20%, to get into the top 4%? One of the things we did is we say, what if you want to get into the top 4% of the top 4%, which is the top 20% of the top 20%, which is the top 4%. Well, that means that you would be earning 32 times the average of people in the bottom 80%. So what if you got into the top 20% of the top 20% of the top 20%, which is the top 0.8%, you'd be earning 54 times the average income of people in the bottom 80%. Now, I've worked, as I've told you, with 1,000 large companies and 10,000 small companies. In every large company I work with, there are salespeople, salesmen, saleswomen, who are selling the same product at the same price, out of the same office, to the same customers, who are earning 50 times as much as other people selling out of the same office, because they are using this strategy. They're continually focusing on learning one skill at a time. So let me ask you a question. Please turn to the person next to you, just as an exercise, and tell them the one skill that if you were absolutely excellent at it, would help you the most to double your income. What one skill? Turn to the person next to you and tell them your answer to that question. Now, if I could have your attention again. Пожалуйста. Here are 2 discoveries. Discovery number 1 is that all business skills are learnable. This was the big shocker for me when I was 24 years old. I thought that my skill level and my intelligence, my ability, was fixed like a ceiling. It couldn't go any higher. And then I learned that that was a false idea. The fact is that you can learn any skill you need to learn to achieve any goal you can set for yourself. And each time you learn a skill, you become smarter. and your ability to learn another skill increases. Very much like working out with weights. If you wanted to grow your muscles by working out with weights, you could become stronger and stronger. As you learn new skills, you become smarter and smarter. So when you learn skills, and especially using this strategy, one skill at a time, you eventually become one of the smartest people in your field and one of the highest paid people in your field. And there's no limits because you can learn any skill. Now, the second point is that you are probably only one skill away from doubling your income. You're probably only one skill away from doubling your income right now. And so the question is, what is that one skill? So then they studied these wealthy people to find out how much time they spent to be earning 303 times the average. And they found many different numbers, but here's what they found. That the average high-paid person invested 2 hours per day, 5 days per week, to become one of the highest paid people in their industry. 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. Now that's 10 hours. So you're in Vladivostok and I'm here in San Diego, so I'm not sure what time system you use. But let me ask you a question. How many hours are there in a week in Vladivostok? How many hours are there in a week in Vladivostok? Actually, most people get this wrong. Most people say 40 hours. But that's not correct because there's 24 hours in a day and there's 7 days in a week. So how many hours are there in a week? There's 168 hours. So do we agree on that? Say da, dice, da. Okay. So then what that means is if you could slice off like a slice of salami, if you could slice off 10 of those hours, you could become one of the highest paid and most successful people in your industry or in your society. Is it possible to do that? Is it possible for you, in order to become one of the highest paid people in Russia, is it possible for you to slice off 2 hours a day, 5 days a week? And the answer is, of course it is. Конечно. Конечно. Anybody could slice off 10 hours. Now, it's not easy because you're so accustomed now to socializing and watching television, it's very hard to break a habit. So this is what you do, very simple tricks, is set aside a part of your home or apartment that is your learning place. And it could be a kitchen table, it could be a desk, it could be somewhere. And then make a decision that next week you're going to take 1 hour. Maybe do it Monday morning, start right away. You're going to take 1 hour and you're going to start studying the one subject that can help you the most. Then the next week you're going to study 2 hours. And the next week you're going to study 3 hours until by the end of 10 weeks you'll be studying 10 hours. You'll have developed a new habit of study. And here's my promise to you. Your income will already start to increase. Something will start to happen in your career. You'll start to get better results. You'll start to go up this ladder of earning ability. You'll start to make better decisions. If you're in sales, you'll probably double your income just by starting on this process of continuous learning. Now, all I ask you to do is try it out. Just give it a try. I've taught this to hundreds of thousands of people, and I go back and I meet them, and they always say to me something like this: "You changed my life, you made me rich. You changed my life, you made me rich." Because of these very simple things. Do only A activities. Work only on the 3 most important tasks, and get better at each of those 3 tasks all the time. Focus on getting better and improving on the one task that's more important than anything else. Now, Stanislav Klinikov told me that you are all business owners. Is that correct? Da, please raise your hand if that's correct. You can hear me? Okay, thank you. You see, please forgive me, but I cannot hear you. So it's very difficult unless you give me some kind of indication. I don't know if you heard me. So I'm going to take a little bit longer than Stanislav asked me, and I'm going to tell you how to build one of the most profitable businesses in your industry. There's really 7 keys that I've developed in tens of thousands of hours of study and work with corporations. 90%, let's start right at the beginning. Let's start with what we call the what in your business. And the what is the product that you sell. And most people, when you ask them what product do you sell, don't realize that customers do not buy products. They buy benefits and they buy results. They buy changes and they buy improvements in their lives. They buy transformations and solutions to their problems. So when I ask you, what do you sell? And I do this with my clients, do not describe to me your product or your service or your company or your industry. Just describe to me the change that your product makes in a person's life. Because that's all people buy, is the change that the product makes. So, for example, if you sell life insurance, you don't sell life insurance, you sell peace of mind. If you sell nutritional products, you don't sell food. What you do is you sell less weight and more energy. You don't sell cars, you sell comfortable, safe transportation. Is always your product is defined in terms of the qualities or the emotional difference it makes in their life. So here's one of the most important things I ever learned. 90% of your success in business will be determined by the quality of your product or service in changing or improving the life of your customer. 90%. Everything else is the other 10%. And this is a real shocking idea. 90% of all your success will be quality. So if you look at the most successful businesses in your city or your industry, you'll find the highest profit businesses are those who are known by their customers for having the highest quality product or service. They are the businesses that offer products and services that bring about the most positive and consistent result. By the way, if you want to know the major factor that determines your personal income, it's that 90% rule again. 90% of your success in life will be determined by the quality of the work that you do. 90% will be determined by the quality of your work as a person, and 90% of your business success will be the quality of your product or service. So when they interviewed the 500 founders of these 500 fastest growing companies that are growing an average of 17 times in 3 years, they asked them, if you had a large amount of money to build your business, to increase your sales and profitability, how would you spend the money? Almost all of them said, I'd spend the money increasing the quality of my product. Because there's no faster way than to increase sales and profitability than to increase the quality of what you sell. So that's number one, is that here's how you can predict the future of your business. It's a simple number. What percentage of your customers, after they use your product or service, turn to other people and say, this is a great product. This is really an excellent product. This is the best product of this kind that I've seen. What percentage of people, of your customers, tell other people how happy they are? Now, there are several. The second part is who. So we say what is the product that you sell, the difference that your product makes. The second part is who, and who is the customer that your product does this for. You see, the customer you choose determines your entire business model. And your business model is your profit model. So who exactly is the customer who most appreciates and will most buy and most pay for the product or service that you sell? You see, 80 to 90% of the reason why a business fails is because the customers simply don't want their product. And sometimes they don't want the product because it's not good quality, but sometimes they don't want it because it's the wrong customer. It's like trying to sell cat food to dogs. Sometimes people are trying to sell a good product, but to the wrong customer. So you start off and you say, what is my product and who is my customer? And then the next question you ask is how? How do I produce my product? How do I produce my product to assure that it's truly excellent? The second question is, how do I market my product? Now, the way that you market your product is you market your product by showing your potential customer that your product or service is superior in at least one important way to any other competitor that you have. We call this your competitive advantage. We sometimes call it your differentiating factor, your area of superiority. You see, for a customer to buy your product, they must be convinced that it is superior to any similar or duplicate product in the market today. So imagine that a 6-year-old child were to ask you, in what way is your product or service superior to any other competitive product? In what way is what you sell better than anything else similar to it in the market? What's your answer? Well, the rule is you should really have 3. You should have one major factor and 2 minor factors. One major factor where your product is superior and 2 minor factors. But what is your one? Because the one factor that makes your product superior to that of anyone else is the heart, like the axle. It's the heart of your advertising. All of your advertising emphasizes this one point. All of your advertising points out that your product or service offers this benefit or advantage that no one else has. Sometimes we call this your value proposition. It's what you offer to a customer who buys your product that no one else can offer. So that's your marketing. Now, what is the difference between marketing and sales? Well, marketing is how you attract interested prospects, how you attract people who can and will buy your product or service. And so marketing would be the same as saying, is anybody here hungry? And if you're hungry and you raised your hand, I'd say, now that means I have identified a prospective customer. Now I need to convince you to come to my restaurant. So marketing is where you attract interested prospects, and sales is where you convert them to buying from you. So the next how is sales. And the sales process has 7 critical parts. But most companies and most salespeople have never been trained properly. When I started off, this life-changing experience, I was given a product and told to go out and knock on office doors in the daytime and then knock on the doors of apartments and homes in the nighttime. And so I would go from door to door all day long, sometimes until 9 o'clock at night, just knocking on doors and explaining my product. But I never had any sales training until one day a senior salesman, an older salesman, sat down and showed me that there is a simple system or formula for making sales. And so I went out and used a simple system which he had learned from his first sales job, and my sales went up. And eventually they went up 10 times. Within 1 year, they went up 10 times what they were before. So the starting point of business success is you have to have a product that people really want and need and are willing to pay for. And it has to be superior to that of any other competitor. Number 2 is you have to focus in on exactly the right customers, the most important customers who appreciate your product more than anything else. Number 3, you have to produce the product at a cost or a price where you can make a profit. 4, you have to market the product and attract new customers. And 5, you have to sell the product. And number 6, of course, you have to be able to attract good employees, good managers, good people to work for you. And number 6, and I could spend 3 days on this in great detail, number 6, you have to have a customer service program. So here's one of my favorite questions. And the question is, why don't you still have every customer that you ever had? In other words, why doesn't every customer who has ever bought from you continue to buy from you today on a regular basis whenever they need your product? This is one of the great questions in marketing. Why doesn't everybody buy from you? And if everybody who had ever bought from you was still buying from you, what would that do to your sales and profitability? Well, this is a question I ask very large companies worldwide. And the senior executives are all quiet. They shake their heads. So then you ask this question, why aren't they buying from you? What have you done or failed to do that caused the customer to go somewhere else and buy from your competitor? So here's a little exercise I put my clients through. I say, imagine that you have a wonderful customer service program in your business. Is that when customers buy from you, you take very, very good care of them. So much so that they buy from you again and again, and they tell their friends, and their friends buy from you as well. So let me ask you this question. What would happen if you made a sale and you took such good care of that customer that the customer over the next 12 months brought you one more customer of the same size? What would that do to the size of your business? If each sale, each customer brought you one more customer over the course of the next 12 months. What difference would that make in the size of your business? Well, you don't need to have a degree in mathematics. You just take 1 plus 1 equals 2. So, if every customer that you made a sale to brought you one new customer, you would double the size of your business in the next 12 months. But let us say you take such good care of your customers that each customer not only buys from you again, but they bring you one new customer every 6 months. If each customer brought you one new customer every 6 months, what would that do to the size of your business? And the answer is 1 plus 2 equals 3. But what if each new customer brought you one new customer every 3 months? Well, that would increase the size of your business 4 times. How about every 6 months? 7 times. What if each new customer was so happy with customer service that they brought you one new customer every 6 months? How many would that be? Well, that's 1 plus 12 equals 13. Now we're almost up to the average of what fast-growing companies are doing, growing 17 times in 3 years. So one more question is, what if each customer was so happy that they brought you one new customer a month, and each of those customers was so happy that they also brought you one new customer per month? That would be 1 plus 12 times 12 new customers in a month. And I'm holding up here in my hand, I don't know if you can see me, I'm holding up my iPhone. People say, well, that's ridiculous because that could never happen. As of last month, the iPhone sold 500 million sets. 500 million sets. Became the most valuable and most profitable company in the world, almost all by word of mouth. They do very little advertising at all for the iPhone, and people sleep in the streets to buy them. Sometimes when I'm talking to my business owner friends, I'll say, what's the quality of your product or service? And they'll say, oh, we're the best. We're the best. Our product's the best. I say, well, really? I say, well, we know that Apple is the best because when they release a new phone, people sleep in the streets to buy the new phone. So, here, let me ask you a question. How many people are sleeping in the streets in front of your office in the morning when you come to work to buy your product? How many people are sleeping in the streets in front of your office or store to buy your product? And they say, well, nobody. I say, well, then your product must not be the best in the market. And they just look away, and then they walk away. So there's only 4 ways that you can change your business. I'll give you these 4, and then we'll ask and we'll answer some questions. The 4 ways that you can change your business are, first of all, you can do more of something. So the question is, what are you going to do more of to increase your sales and profitability? Since you're now going to be working 75 to 80% of every single day, increasing your sales and profitability, what could you do more of? And the answer is you could do more of those things that are giving you the best results. Because results are everything in our business. The second way that you can change your business or your life is you can do less of something else. So what should you be doing less of? And the answer is you should start doing less of those things that are not giving you excellent results. You should have the discipline to say no, niet, to anything that is not an excellent use of your time in increasing sales and profitability. Now, the third way that you can change your life or your business is you can start doing something completely new and different. You can start doing something that you are not doing today. And by the way, this is the hardest thing of all, to start doing something that you're not doing, because of what is called the comfort zone. The comfort zone is the greatest single enemy of your success today, yesterday, tomorrow. As human beings become very comfortable doing the things that they're already doing, and they resist change of any kind. In fact, one of the great success authors asked, how many times does a person try on a new goal before they give up? What's the average number of times that a person will try with a new goal or new resolution before they give up? And the answer is yes, it's less than 1 time. And why is that? It's because most people will quit without trying even once on a new idea. They will think about it, but then they'll go home and watch a little television and talk to their friends, and they'll say, well, maybe I'll try it tomorrow. And then nothing ever happens. The number one reason people don't improve is not because they don't know what to do. It's because they cannot discipline themselves to take the first step, to give it a try. So the third thing you can do that can change your life is start doing something new. And what could it possibly be? Well, let me give you an example. I have written a book called The Habits of Millionaires and Billionaires, and how you can develop them as well. One of the things we know is millionaires and billionaires get up before 6 a.m. Poor people get up at 7 o'clock or later, but rich people get up early. Rich people watch 1 hour of television each day. Poor people watch between 5 hours and 7 hours. In fact, they come home at night and the first thing they do is turn on the television, and they watch the television until they're too tired to watch television, and then they go to bed, and then when they get up in the morning, the first thing they do is they turn the television on again. I tell you another thing that I can see from my viewpoint is people become addicted to their cell phones, as they cannot stop checking their cell phone. Average adult checks their cell phone between 95 and 145 times a day. They can't stop. They wake up in the morning and check their cell phone. They go downstairs and check their cell phone. They go out to the car and check their cell phone. They cannot stop checking their cell phone. They have what is actually a dope addiction, and the dope is called dopamine. And dopamine is a dope that is triggered in the brain when you are when your curiosity is motivated. So it's almost like a bell. When your telephone bell goes off, dopamine is triggered in your brain, and you instantly have to look and see what it is. When your computer is on and it goes off and goes ding, you immediately have to check to see what it is. And so pretty soon all day you've got people phoning you, ding, people interrupting you with your email, ding, or people coming in and talking to you, ding. So your whole day is ding, 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 and you never get any work done. So one of the things that we teach people, if you want to be successful, you have to turn your phone off, and you have to turn your computer off for extended periods each day. We say turn things off and leave them off, and then free up that time to do your work. Here's an interesting discovery, and you may know because some of you may have read my book, Eat That Frog, which is the best-selling time management book in history. What was the point I was going to make? That in time management, that all of success, this is my point, comes from task completion. All success comes from starting and completing a task of some kind. And if you allow continual interruptions, what we call electronic interruptions, it takes you forever to complete tasks, and in most cases you don't complete them at all. And so all of your success comes from starting and completing your most important tasks, and that requires that you turn things off. So here's the fourth way that you can change your life, and that is to stop doing certain things altogether. And so we have a question, and I'll just leave you with this question because I teach it in strategic planning programs. Is there anything in your life that you're doing today that, knowing what you now know, you would not start again today if you had to do it over? If there's anything in your life that you're doing today that you would not start up again. And if there is, then the next question is, how do you stop doing this and how fast? We say that there's three major areas in your life where you can get into a comfort zone or get into a situation where you keep on doing something that you would never get into again. And that has to do with relationships and business activities and investments. So ask yourself, is there anything that you're doing today in any part of your life that, knowing what you now know, you wouldn't start up? And whatever it is, the next question is, how do you stop and how fast? So that's one of the areas where you can stop certain things altogether. And sometimes the only way that you can get your time under control is by stopping doing certain things completely. So those are a bunch of ideas that I can pass on to you. I'll leave you with this thought, is that each person here has the ability to double their income and double it again and double it again. In fact, I'll give you a very simple technique for doubling your income, and then I'll take questions. If you increase your income by 25% each year by increasing your productivity, and if all you did was read my book, Eat That Frog, and practice it on a regular basis, there's 21 short chapters. Many people say it makes them rich. Or read my book Goals, or many of my other books which are in Paruski, and practice those books. You could increase your productivity by 25% per year. If you increase your productivity with good time management by 25% per year, you would double your income in 3 years. If you doubled your income in 3 years and you kept increasing your productivity by 25% per year, you would double your income again and double it again. And in 10 years, you would increase your income 10 times. 25% per annum with compounding would increase your income 10 times in 10 years. So how do you increase your income 25% per year? Well, you increase your income by 2% per month. How do you increase your income by 2% per month? Well, you just practice better time management each day, each week, each month. Most people here could double their productivity tomorrow just by starting off the day with a list of everything you need to do, selecting your most important task, starting on that most important task, and then disciplining yourself to work only on that task until it's complete. If you could do that, start and complete your most important task each day, you would double or triple your productivity within 2 days. Now you've got your first 3 or 4 years already. And if you keep on improving your productivity and your time management, I've taught this, by the way, all over the world, and people say it doesn't take 10 years to increase your income 10 times. I said, I did it in 3 years. I did it in 2. I did it in 5. I increased my income 10 times in 7 years. So if you do some of these little things, I'll just leave you with 2 or 3 great ideas. 2 years ago, they did a study on self-made billionaires. And we're talking about dollar or euro billionaires, of course. And they asked them, why do you feel it is that you started with nothing and in less than one lifetime, self-made, you became a billionaire? And the answers were pretty much all the same. Number one is they had very clear written goals that they worked on all the time. And they may have changed their method of working, but they always had the same goal. The second is that they were hard workers. The average self-made millionaire or billionaire works about 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. They work about 60 hours a week. Some work 70 or 80 hours a week. But they start at about 8 or earlier, start work, and they work until 6 o'clock or later. Everyone in this room could work starting at 8 and work till 6, 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, and that would put you into the same class as the richest people in the world. The third thing they did is they invested in continuous learning. They're always learning new skills. They were always slicing off 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, 10 hours a week, always upgrading their most important skill at that time. And then the final thing, the final observation that just came out is that they were willing to take risks. That doesn't mean that they took life-threatening risks. It means that they were willing to take intelligent risks. They would take informed risks. They would take calculated risks. They would gather a lot of information before they took a risk, but they were willing to take a risk. They were willing to invest time and money to be successful. Whereas other successful people, because they were so deep in their comfort zone, simply could not take a risk of any kind. Instead, even investing 2 hours a night, 5 days a week, they would say, well, what is my guarantee? What is my guarantee that if I spend that time upgrading my skills that it will pay off? And they couldn't bring themselves to do it. So those are some of my ideas, and I promised Stanislav I would ask or I'd answer any questions that you might have. And so if you have any questions, and if Stanislav, if you have any way of conveying those questions to me, please go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Please tell me, what is the most important skill in the consulting business?
The most important skill in what business?
Consulting, business consult.
The most important skill is the ability to find out clearly a problem that your client has that you can help them solve, and then to focus on solving that problem, and always choose a problem where you can measure the result. You can increase sales or cut costs or do something where you can demonstrate clearly to your consulting client that you have brought about an immediate or short-term financial benefit. That's the most important single skill in the beginning of a consulting relationship, is to prove that you are actually free. One of the interesting discoveries is that all consultants, all people who sell professional services are free, in that they bring about more benefit and result financially than they cost. So if you have a good accountant for every ruble that you pay them, they will bring you back 5 ruble in benefits or savings of some kind. A good consultant can sometimes pay you back 5 or 10 or 50 ruble for every ruble that you pay them, in terms of the advice that you give. So that's my answer, and I've been in consulting now for 35 years.
Спасибо, Брайан, за ответ. Я хочу, опираясь на ваши вопросы в чате, коллеги, задать вопрос, который звучит из 8 вопросов 7. Они на следующую тему, примерно так. А что, деньги единственная, Брайан, ценность? Хочется более сбалансированной модели ценностей предпринимателя. Вы все время говорите про деньги, что кроме денег является ценностью, ну, для вас или для тех людей, о которых вы говорите.
Well, if you play soccer, if you play football, then the only currency is goals, okay? Now, of course, love is important, and family is important, and happiness is important, but if you're playing soccer, the currency of soccer is goals. So everyone who's playing soccer has to focus on getting goals. And if you're in business, the currency of business is profits, because the whole purpose of a business is to serve customers. And the way that you can prove that you're serving customers is that customers are buying your product or service and paying you more than it is costing you to produce and deliver the product or service. So here's a rule, is that profits are the cost of the future. Where there are no profits in business, there is no future. And so the job of the business person is to serve customers so well that customers happily buy their product or service at a price that is greater than it costs them to produce it. So a good business person is the one who generates the most profits. Of course, you don't break the law or cheat people or anything else, but mostly the only way that you can earn profits, the only way that you can get sales in business is if you serve customers better than your competition. If you give them products and services in the top 90%, that makes them happier than your competition. So basically, your success in business means that you are making more people happy than anybody else. You're serving more people at a higher level than anyone else in your industry, and that's a good thing.
Спасибо, Брайан. Вот ваши слова очень похожи на слова нашего великого писателя Достоевского «Деньги, отчеканенная свобода». По-моему, очень близко Брайан говорил на эту тему. Мы можем разрешить себе, коллеги, как модератор, вот извините мне мою роль, один вопрос. Выиграет смелый, кто подойдет к микрофону.
Ну, давайте я уже, да? Можно? So, Mr. Bryan.
Hello. How can I improve loyalty of my clients in a short time?
I do not understand the question. Я не понимаю.
Как я могу улучшить лояльность клиентов, моих клиентов, в максимально сжатые сроки?
Well, that's one of the most important questions of all. And I call it 3 factors. The first factor is to get the customer to buy from you again, what we call resales. You see, the purpose of a business is to create and keep a customer. A profit is a result of creating the customer. In other words, you go out and you find a person who you can serve. Now, find a person who can benefit from your product or service, and then you persuade them to buy your product or service. Here's the interesting thing is that in the sales process, you are offering to give a promise in exchange for money. You're saying to the customer, if you give me your money, I will give you a promise of satisfaction. And so we say the first step in the sales process is to create the customer or persuade the person to buy from you. Then the next question is, what is the measure of customer satisfaction? And the answer is repeat business. The customer says, you kept your promise. Is you promised me you would give me this benefit, and you did. And so I've come back, and I want to buy again. So the measure of customer satisfaction is repeat business. Now, the highest level of all is where people bring their friends to you to buy as well. And so the first is resales, people buy again. The second is referrals or recommendations, is where your customer has so much trust in you that your customer tells other people to come and buy from you as well. And then the third part is what is called retention. And retention goes back to my earlier question. What would happen if you still had every customer that you ever had? And so you want to keep your customers. You want to hold on to those customers so that as long as they buy your product or service, they buy it from you. And the way that you accomplish this is by focus. First of all, clarity. Be very clear that your goal, once you get a customer, is to make that customer so happy that they come back again. Now, this is something that most companies don't think about, is that just like you need a recipe to prepare a dish in the kitchen, you need a recipe or a strategy to take good care of your customers. So when somebody buys from you, you know exactly what you are going to do immediately after they make the purchase, and what you're going to do after that, and after that. In other words, you have a complete program for how you're going to take care of your customers to make sure that they are so happy that they come back to you again and again and bring their friends. And this is not something that can happen by accident. This is something that you have to plan. And if you look at the very best and most successful companies, they have a plan, like a recipe or a formula or a blueprint or a list of every single step that will take place after the customer buys from them. And this is what you need to do, because the great future of your business is repeat business and customer retention, where you hold on to your customers, where they buy from you for the indefinite future, and they bring their friends one after another to buy from you as well.
В общем, не short time. Вот ответ, да? Долго и нудно. Коллеги, я думаю, что правильно будет показать Брайану нашу благодарность за эту встречу аплодисментами. Можно вот так.
Все верно. Руки можно повыше, друзья. Давайте поприветствуем и скажем большое спасибо.
Большое спасибо. Большое спасибо.
Спасибо.
Пожалуйста.